Hello, everybody, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Please visit them on the web at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. I am your host, Ryno Clavin, and this week I will be joined by none other than Deni Sunderly.
Hi, guys.
And this week we're going to be talking about the best and the worst sounds at Walt Disney World. We don't have a ton of worst ones, but we do have a bunch of the best ones. This was actually a topic that was suggested by a listener, a viewer, a friend of the show, Trey. So thank you for that suggestion, Trey. At first I was like, well, I don't know. But then we got to talking and I was like, there are a lot of like sounds that we really like to feel. And to me, they kind of feel like little, like it's like a little blanket, it's a comfort thing, I guess, when it's a good
Absolutely.
sound. You know, when it's a bad sound, it's nails on a chalkboard. But
For sure. But they
yeah,
always trigger emotional responses. So,
yeah, 100%. And so, and it's funny because when I said let's do this, you immediately said the same first thing I did, which
yep.
was what?
We both said the railroad. So, the railroad whistle, the sound of the railroad in the distance, it's just, you can hear it. If you're over in the Contemporary parking lot, you can hear it over there. You can hear it from the TTC. Like, you can hear it everywhere. And right now, it's on hiatus while Tron is being built, but can't wait to hear that again.
Yeah, there's just something about it that, like, it's the immediate, when you say Disney at all, I think of that railroad and that train whistle and and the even the conductor's voice, like the all aboard, like I associate that with Disney, and it works so well because like it's that area in Magic Kingdom where it's not just that main railroad stop either. I think about it a lot when you get to like Frontierland, because you have one of the stations is over there, and it's just like it. I grew up on in Carver, Massachusetts, and there is a like regional amusement park there called Edaville Railroad that my grandfather was the operating manager of for most of my younger life, until it closed for a stretch of time when it was changing owners. And I I lived close enough to this railroad, so I was on this railroad basically every day. I grew up on a railroad, and so like that like coal and that sound of the railroad and tire irons and like all these things, like they bring back such intense memories for me, and it makes it so emotional. And so like when Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened, I had to buy the train whistle because I had all these train whistles when I was a kid, and it just reminds me so much of my grandfather, who just turned 87 this week. Happy birthday, Grandpa!
Yay, happy
And
birthday.
yeah. So we made it a whole 10 minutes on the telephone the other day. He hates talking on the phone just like I do, so it's hilarious. But we chatted for a while. I write him letters all the time instead. I think it's easier. So,
Oh,
but yeah, so no, it reminds me of Edaville Railroad, and like I lived just close enough to Edaville where it's like how you said, Denny, how you can hear that Disney like in the background, and I could hear that out my bedroom window or in the backyard. I could always hear that train whistle, and like I honest to God, I miss that so much. Like I love railroads. Like I am fascinated by that travel. I wish there were more railroads that we still went through in America. I hope that we continue to build them and things like that. And I don't mean to go off on this tangent about railroads, but it is a very emotional thing to me. And so like I love that that's kind of preserved at Disney World,
yes,
and Disneyland,
yes.
and it's just one of those things that it's just it's just something you're always passing by. The next time you're there and it's operating, you got to go do it. You got to just ride it all the
Yeah.
way around, ride the whole loop.
Absolutely. And I would encourage people, if they've never gone to the train station in the Magic Kingdom, the lower level, and read all the information about the different engines and how they were acquired and when. And there's a backstory to each of the engines that has been used in the Magic Kingdom. So definitely take the time to stop and do that. And it's so cool because we do have it's like a piece of Walt
Yeah.
right here in the Magic Kingdom because of his great love for railroads. We still have that. So
Okay, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I've told you this before. I might have said it on a show or anything like that, but I mentioned Edaville Railroad. And so my grandfather was the operating manager because he worked for, there was a man, and he was like I don't know, like a, one of those rich people, that just had a lot of money. He was like a seafood. He had owned a bunch of seafood restaurants. His name was Nelson Blount, and basically, like, he bought Edaville, and then he was like, Jack, I want you to come do this for me. But my grandmother told me a story, and I have it on tape somewhere. But she told me a story where she's like, well, when they were building Disney was looking, he had that love of trains. And I'm like, yeah, people know that. And she was like, yeah, he would ask about it in a lot of places. And I know the Disneyland Railroad and the train, like, they were built like for there, but, or modified for there or whatever it is. But, she always tells the story, and I told it to somebody once, and they were like, no, Disneyland, the trains were built, there was whatever. And I was like, they knew each other, Blount and Disney or whatever. So then a listener of this show at one point, this was 2015 when I first started, had heard me talk about Edaville Railroad and said, I work at the Walt Disney Studios, and we just redid Walt's office. And I wanted you to know, he's like, there is a ticket to Edaville Railroad under this plate of glass, and it's all the stuff that was inside of his desk. And so, like, I have a photo, and if I can dig that photo up, I'll put it over here. If not, I'm sorry, I didn't. But and it says from Nelson Blount to Walt Disney, and it's an invitation for him to come to Edaville Railroad. And it's crazy to me that my family legacy and history is with this railroad. And it's like a little piece that's in Walt's office, like in his office today, that I need to somehow in my life find a way to be able to see it with my own eyes. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my little fun story. Anyway, sorry. We'll stop with the railroads.
The coolest thing. No, that's good. The railroad whistle, that was both of our number one, so it deserves a little time.
Yeah. I think we're also a little bit twisted because you and I also agreed on the second one. We right away said the same thing, and that's we love to hear people screaming. Right away, Deni said on Everest, I said, oh, Tower of Terror, when those windows pop, there is something about those two attractions where that scream is the right blend of, like, it's like they're afraid, but also you can tell people are having such a great time, right? So it's just like there's something about it.
Well, and they're at, the pinnacle of the attraction, right? There's nothing greater in that well, in Everest, there's several things great, but there's nothing greater than, what you're doing on that huge descent and that hill, and it banks to the left, and you're just along for the ride in that moment there. And it's so much fun. It's just letting go. And same with Tower. I mean, those doors open and that whole thing, that elevator drops, and you're along for the ride, whether you regret your decisions or not. And it's just a lot of fun to be kind of on the outside observing that. Like, imagine those attractions and being there and not having the screaming. That would be weird.
It'd be weird if people are just experiencing it in, like, complete silence and you're just like, fun.
No, you got to have the screaming.
Because you think, too, there aren't, like, a ton of attractions that really elicit that kind of such a strong emotional response in that moment. Like, yes, I cry when I'm on Rise of the Resistance because it's so cool, but that's different. If somebody was just screaming the whole time, I'd be like, shut up. Like, like, cause you want to hear that story, but it's like, that's the part of the, those attractions where you are participating in the story by, having that such a, like, a visceral reaction to what is happening. And it's great, but I think Hollywood Studios also has another sound that we both agreed on as well. Deni, do you want to take this one?
Yes, it is the stop-go signs. So you can find them in a couple of different locations at Disney's Hollywood Studios. There's one at the base of Sunset Avenue and one at the very beginning of Hollywood Avenue. But they're your old-time, stoplights. And there's a ringing of a bell every time the lever goes up that says stop or go, comes down. And I'll just stand there. I've stood there and just listened just to that before. The one at the base of the tower is my favorite.
Yeah, the one I always think of, because I had to stand there for like 25 minutes one day to get a shot, because I was like, I'm going to use this when I think when I edit any of these like more creative videos I basically think it all in my head and edit it in my head, so I'm very specific about like the type of shot where I'm looking for it. I love movement in shots because I feel like when you splice it all together quickly, it creates like an extra sense of like this whirlwind feeling that you get, and that is Disney to me. And so I was like, I have got to get this shot of this sign going up, and I would like hold the camera for like 5 or 6 minutes and be like, okay, I missed it. Hit the stop button. And right when I could tell it was about to do it, the camera wouldn't start recording fast enough. And I'd be like, well, I'm going to stand here for another couple of minutes and wait for it. But I do love it because it's also one of those like kind of hidden, subtle things that you don't necessarily always take attention to. But then once you do, you always kind of look at it or look for it once it's there, you know?
Yeah, a lot of these sounds are that's what the sound is, right? It's a layer of a sensory layer. And so this is that stop sign is layered in with the background music, is layered in with the screaming from Tower of Terror, is layered in with the people walking by to go get on Rock and Roller Coaster. And it's all this one holistic picture.
Yeah.
But it is fun to kind of try to pick apart one of those layers and to stop and really appreciate it for what it is.
It's really a testament to the storytelling at Disney because it is like if you think about a movie in a certain way, you know, there's a lot of elements that go into a movie that in film school we call them like the invisible element, like the invisible layer to it. Like it's the thing that took so much work, but you don't notice unless you specifically look for it. Editing being a big thing a lot of times, you know, it depends if it's stylized or anything, but lighting is another thing. ADR, like the sound of footsteps and stuff like that, is not usually caught in that moment. So it's kind of interesting because Disney creates these environments that are a fully functional 3-dimensional storytelling moment that you are living through. And some of that it's so layered in there, like you said, that you don't even know until you sit and are like, okay, let's pick it apart, you know? So it's really fascinating to me. Another sound that I love and have always really enjoyed this too, is the sound of fireworks. It doesn't have to have the music. It doesn't have to be whatever. I love the pop it makes, and then like I love how it's that delayed, like you feel it. So like depending on how far away you are, it's like immediate, or you know, if you're right up close, you can like, if anyone's ever watched like 4th of July fireworks at Epcot or the Christmas tag that used to be around at Illuminations, you know what I'm talking about because you're so close from there that it's like boom, 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 like right on your chest. But then you could be at like, you know, one of the monorail resorts and be so far enough away that you get that delayed pop when you see them go. But I just love that sound of fireworks. I've always loved it since I was a little kid and like laying on the beach and watching them and stuff. But yeah,
I think some of the best is when they've got the 180 fireworks going on either New Year's Eve or 4th of July in the Magic Kingdom, and it's just the chute, them coming out of the chute, one. It's such a rapid succession.
Yeah,
it is breathtaking.
Yeah.
To be there in the middle of that, and just there's something for all of the senses in that moment. But the sound, I agree. I like listening to it, and then the delay, you know, and watching where it's coming. When will it explode? What will it look like? What kind of firework is it? That kind of thing. And for me personally, because we live within a really close proximity to the parks. For me, I miss right now the fireworks aren't happening.
Yeah.
And so that was an every night kind of thing. And I could tell what time it was and what fireworks display was going off, which nighttime spectacular it was by the time. Like, oh, okay, that's Illuminations back in the day when it was Illuminations, or that's Wishes or Happily Ever After. And it's just really quiet now. And not that was a loud thing that happened every night, because it's kind of off in the distance, but it was always there.
Yeah.
And now you notice its absence.
Yeah. You know what I like too that you brought up was that finale sound when you know it's about to happen and you can hear all the fireworks launching at once and it's like 12, 15, whatever, 100 are going up and you just hear the Like
Yes.
I love that. And you're right. Like you hit the nail on the head with like the anticipation of being like, ooh, what's it gonna be? But it's like it's not the same without that sound. Like I know sometimes when I've watched them and like you can't really hear the pop, but they like pipe in the music and you're like, I'd rather the sound of the firework than the music myself. That's me
Yes.
personally.
No, I hear you.
Um there was an attraction that I realized I kind of enjoy the sound of, and this is so weird, but I like the like the noise the people mover car makes as you're on it, like the tracks, like it has that like
Along the way, you can preview many of these.
it's like I don't know how to compare it, like going over a bridge on a highway where you hit the divider, like
Yes.
the do do do,
Click,
and
clack,
yeah, and it's
clack.
like that
Hmm.
rhythmic like
Hmm.
bump, and there's something just so like just like I don't know, I just really enjoy it. Weird.
Yeah. No, I agree with you though. I think it's the maglev technology that propels the people mover. I think that's what it's going over to make that sound. I could be really wrong there,
Yeah.
but we'll just go with it for now. But it is so subtle though, and that's so neat that you could pick that out because I'm probably listening to 100 other things at that moment. But that you're exactly right, and it's akin to a railroad.
Yeah.
And or like you said, like a bridge you're going over, that would make that sound going in between the rivets, between the plates of the bridge. So
Yeah,
cool.
you also had a favorite too, another attraction favorite that you like to listen to at Epcot.
I did, and it's so funny because I really noticed it. We was doing a live stream from Epcot the other day, and we ended up, the last live stream was right outside of Test Track, and just the sound of the cars whizzing around the outside of the track. I really like that sound. I like hearing the whoosh. I think it adds, like we've said before, another layer to Future World East. And it's just, something really fun is happening up there, and slightly like, oh my stars, I don't
Yeah.
know what we're getting ourselves into. It's a lot of fun. I love the sound.
It reminds me of a grown-up like RC track, like the kind I had when I was a kid that you go, ooh, and you're like, ooh, the car's gonna come off. Like I don't mean it in a mean way, but that's what would always happen if I go too fast. And knowing that the foundation, like somebody told me once, the equivalent of the car going around was basically like equivalent to a certain type of an earthquake, and so that's what like it. So like it was opened for like a second, closed for 2 years, if people remember that, and that was because the foundation. There was something with the foundation from the cars going around like that, and so it's like one of those. Every time it goes around, I think you're sinking a little bit lower into the ground. Like it's a
My
leaning
God.
tower of Pisa situation for me, where I keep thinking it's just going to keep going down, down, down. So, we have to mention Star Wars Galaxy's Edge because we both have different things that we love. I mean, we agree 100% on it, but I can't help but like there isn't a ton of music present, and we'll do another episode about background loops and music and stuff like that. But there isn't a ton of music present when you are out walking around Galaxy's Edge, but it still has that layering to it because one of my favorite things is when you first go into the entrance, especially if you're coming from the like Muppet side, like Baseline Tap House, like over there, it is. You can hear, if you just kind of stand there for a few minutes, you can hear all these animals, and it's like just all these, and it's similar. Pandora does kind of the same thing, but I think I like it better at Galaxy's Edge. I think it like folds in a lot better into the atmosphere. You just fold in that cheese.
What does fold in the cheese mean? He folds it in.
Fold it in.
Fold in the cheese. Please. Yeah, no, I'm there with you. For me, it's the TIE fighters flying overhead. It's the ships that you feel like if you look up, you're going to see something landing, and it's just It's such a, like we've said before, there's a visceral reaction to it. Like a Star Wars fan knows what that sound is and knows what should be there. And it's almost like it's just out of sight.
Yeah.
Like, it's there. It's got to be, because it just sounds like it is. So just the sound engineering is amazing.
I was going to say, I still kind of fall for it every time too. Like because it's not just like, oh, it's the sound of the TIE fighter, like you said, but it's the way they piped it through where, like you said, you have that reaction to it because it literally sounds like there is actual movement. Like it has this like vibration to it. And they kind of play with that a little bit inside of the Rise of Resistance attraction when Kylo Ren uses the Force when you're in your cell. It like makes the room, you like feel the Force because of this like vibration that they do. And I love that. And that is that same type of experience. I feel like they do it with the TIE fighter because I always am like, oh, today's going to be the day something's going to land right there. Like something like maybe I've missed it. Maybe we've all missed it. And there's going to be a little ship that just touches down right over here or something. And I love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, another thing is the moisture evaporators that are located throughout the land. They have a hum to them, and it's not a quiet hum. It's a pretty loud hum, especially it's louder, obviously, as you get closer to it. But there's also a bit of a rumble to it as well. It is, that's a moisture evaporator. Of course, that's what it is. And of course, we need those here in Black Spire Outpost. So it all makes sense. And it's like you've just connected the dots here because it all makes the picture.
I also I recommend like if you're finishing your day at Hollywood Studios, if you kind of hang back toward Galaxy's Edge and let the crowd go out, you can kind of really listen and hear a lot of those sounds that kind of got lost during the day because they blend in so well with like people's voices and all that sort of stuff, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize I was hearing this. But I feel like we can't stop talking about the best without bringing up one of your favorite attractions, because I don't know about you, but the sound of Steven Tyler screaming, I know we said our favorite quotes and everything, but I have to say that the sound that Steven Tyler makes for that countdown is also like, we said it in the last episode, if we didn't hear it, it would feel off. But it is one of those where like whatever that attraction is or becomes or anything, I feel like they need to preserve him screaming the countdown somehow.
Yes. Oh, let it be. I am dreading the inevitable news. I just feel like that's the next shoe to drop here eventually, that there'll be a retheming to that attraction. I'm really hoping it never comes because I love all things Aerosmith and Steven Tyler. But yes, him screaming that countdown, I mean, that is that attraction. It would be hard to pull one from the other. And I said, when we were talking before we started recording, I said the sound of the limo as it pulls around into the load area for me. Like they didn't have to do that. That isn't a real limo. But lo and behold, it comes around the corner and it's got the vroom, of a limo, of a car, and you go. Like it just helps again to sell the story.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's the beauty of all these things. Like it feels like the best sounds of Disney sound so trivial, but we've said it over and over. It's about storytelling. It's about layering, and it really does affect your experience more than you know. Because I think when you think of sounds, you think of a couple. Like we're gonna talk about the worst in this episode too, because there weren't like a ton where we're like, oh no, we don't like that, we don't like this. Like, but it's like it's all kind of insane how it all comes together to really pull you in, in such a subconscious way. But I do have to say the most obvious, like if we are talking about the worst sounds at Walt Disney World, the one that I hate, and this makes me feel like I am a terrible person, but I always like the sound of crying babies always is so hard for me. It is like nails on a chalkboard to my skin. And I feel like that is a biological reaction. Like that is what it's supposed to sound like because the baby needs attention and help and whatever. So it's the sound of like the screaming kids. And it's not like I think it's specifically for me, like the entitled kids, like the kids who are being brats, who are like young me having my little meltdown because I'm not getting my fifth ice cream for the day. Like, I'm talking about somebody that we've all been. I'm not pointing out and being like, get that crying baby out of here. Like, a baby's going to cry. But there's just that sound of those kids in the gift shop when they don't get what they want and they throw that tantrum.
Yeah.
I hate it.
And they're tired.
Yeah.
They're tired and they're on sensory overload, and they're supposed to be having this stellar time. And for some reason, they are just having a meltdown in that moment. And our hearts go out to all the parents dealing with the children in those situations, because we know it ain't easy what you're dealing with at that moment. But sure, that's not a sound that anybody goes, yeah,
I love it. I love it. I always feel like I want to snap in and be like, hey, your parents worked real hard to get you here. Like I want to be that guy. Be like, remember me. I'm coming back if you throw another one of these tantrums. You know? Yeah. Mine are these are so weird. I have so I said, the asteroid sound from Dinosaur. I know I'm speaking ill of Dinosaur. But it's not, I haven't been on it in a little while, and from what I heard is that they've reverted back to some of the sound effects. But for a while there was like the sound of the asteroids cut in so like it wasn't a very well made sound. Everything else, like the sound of the dinosaurs, like the sound the environment makes when you go in, it's so good. It's so good. And then like Seeker talks to you through the speaker, and that's fine. But the asteroid sound was coming through the speaker, and I felt like it shouldn't be. It throws me out of the attraction because you're very aware of being like, oh my God, the speaker just got so loud behind my ears. Instead of it being like, oh, there should be that loud asteroid sound over there. Like it should be hitting around us, not like directly in the car, if that makes sense. And it always like every now and then you get on and you be like, oh, it's just a little bit too loud. I don't want to be that person. Like, but they like basically removed it in the last couple of years. But I heard that they kind of brought it back up again recently, but I don't know. I'll have to go over and eventually write it at some point, but
you'll have to do some research.
I will. Yeah.
But yeah, for me, when you brought up the asteroid, I brought up Red. Bless her heart. I know we're just piling on Red here recently, but the new track of Red the Pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean is just, it doesn't meld with the rest of the scene. It's just too bright, and it's too forward almost, is what the sound sounds like. It's too above everything else that's happening, or in front of everything else that's happening audibly. So however that happens, it just doesn't quite meld with everything else. It just causes it to kind of stand out, and you take it gets your attention maybe for not the right reason or the intended reason.
It's off just enough that it sticks out a little more than I think it was meant to, you know? And that's where it's like, it throws me a little bit. Like even I think you could be somebody who's never ridden it before and very clearly be like, which is weird because I feel like the Jack Sparrow talk in it doesn't bother me in that same way, which is, it's so bizarre. I don't know why it does it. Maybe maybe it is because they tried to modify it so much to sound like it fit in that's what threw it off. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a sound technician. I have to tell you, at Animal Kingdom, I hate the sound of the macaws when they screech. I'm always afraid I'm going to get pooped on in this park. It is a real fear. I'm not saying I don't like the macaws flying in. I think it's very cool. I don't go into the bird show because no thank you. And I think it's just like the sound of the birds screeching always makes me nervous, where I'm like, they're going to turn on the humans soon and there will be poop everywhere raining down on us. So it always makes me a little uneasy.
Yeah, no, they're majestic to watch, fly around. Just beautiful. So colorful, so bright, so pretty. But yeah, if you're worried about what the bright, pretty birds could do to you, absolutely. You can associate that with, something that could happen that would be negative. Yeah.
Get the umbrella out when you hear the screeching. That's all I'm going to say. Get the umbrella out. You brought up another one though that was really good that we're not really having right now, but every time I'm at Magic Kingdom or really any park that kind of started to use this, It always scares me wherever I am. I always jump.
Yeah, me too. So it was anything in the castle forecourt stage. So if it's, Fantasy Fair, what Mickey and Friends, like they'll do those confetti cannons that have almost like the sparkler fireworks. There's some pyrotechnics going on there. And obviously I don't know what the official word is or terminology is, but it always, like, no matter where I am, I'm like, oh, because I'm not standing in front of the castle. And if you're not standing in front of the castle, you may not know it's coming. And it's always surprising and a little jarring. And then you go, oh, okay, got it. And you just keep on with your day. But yeah, that's not my favorite sound.
It might be like a fun activity when they bring it back eventually, like to just kind of like crowd watch and be like, I know one of you is going to jump in here, and just watch for who it's going to be, because it does always. Right. I think it's also kind of because it does have a little bit of that fireworks sound to it, that it's just not a sound you're like you think of when, like, daytime stuff. It's not a sound you're like anticipating hearing during the day. So you're just like, oh my gosh, something popped, Like, I was at Disneyland once and a stroller tire exploded, and I was just like, it's happening. Like, I got so scared, and I was just like, but people were so casual about it, and like, it happens sometimes. And I'm like, sometimes? Like, that scared me. Like, I have to give an honorable mention to one of the worst sounds that I've ever experienced at Walt Disney World, and that would be the entire show of Lights, Motors, Action. Because yes, a big part of it was from working there, but oh my gosh, I just can't even, like, the screeching sound of a car is still like haunting me. Like, I used to have dreams at night of like the background music, of the show, of the car, of the bike, and it was all like, I just felt like it was just so noisy. I didn't need it. I didn't want it.
It was a super noisy attraction. May it rest in peace.
Yeah.
It was. And the background music was so intense, and there's peril about to happen at every second and every moment, and you're on the edge of your seat. And I don't blame you with the squealing tires and the motorcycles and all of the stuff that was happening simultaneously during that attraction. I mean, I enjoyed it as a guest, but I didn't have to work there.
You didn't have to watch it 3 times a day. Yeah, every day of the week, like including practice and warm-ups before every show. You just say, oh, God, give it a rest, guys. Give it a rest. No. Well, those are our best and worst sounds of Walt Disney World, and I am positive we missed some. So please don't tear us apart. Denny, I forgot at the very beginning of the show to give you the chance to talk about a very quotable attraction we missed last week.
Yes. It was a perfect segue that we might miss some. So we have, Ryno and I have a slight apology that we'd like to issue formally to a group of people that we forgot last week on the most quotable attractions, Walt Disney World attractions episode. So we would like to formally apologize to the Phoenicians. And we have indeed learned our ABCs from them, and we would like to indeed thank them. However, we did forget to actually do so in the quotable attractions episode. And it's ridiculous because I have the shirt and the hat that say, if you can read this, thank the Phoenicians. So we do formally want to thank the Phoenicians. And we are so grateful that we have learned our ABCs from them.
Yes, yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, because it was one of those where you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we left that out. Like, sometimes you're just too close. You're too close to it.
Yes.
So we love, that's what I love though. I love being able to start a conversation and continue that conversation. So please always point that stuff out to us. Like I said, with the best and the worst sounds, I'm positive we missed some. So please point them out, and then I can be like, oh my gosh, you're right. Or no way. Like, something we love might be something you're like, oh, I hate the sound. Like, I know plenty of people who are like, can't stand the popping of the fireworks. Like, it's just it triggers too much for them. And they're just like, it makes my nerves like go. And I'm like, understandable. I get it, But yeah, please let us know in the comments of this video if you're watching. And let us know if there's another topic you'd like us to address at any point. Something that you're curious about, what we feel like is the best or the worst. It doesn't have to be a list. It can be a conversation. It can be a debate. Like, why do we feel it's the best? Why do we feel it's the worst? Just no food. because it's not going to go on this show. I understand that you want best, like, whatever, best snacks, best this stuff, but that is for the Disney Dining Show. So they are definitely open to recommendations there. You can always send us emails at disunplug or podcast@disunplug.com. I always forget the email. Sorry. But yeah, send us in topics, feedback, all of that stuff. We love to hear it. Love to hear it. If you are enjoying this video, the series of videos, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It helps YouTube algorithms. I don't know, something smarter than me. Subscribe to the channel. You can get stay up to date on all sort of the Disney content that we produce on here because it is so much stuff. So there's that. And then the next time that you are considering a Walt Disney World or a Disney vacation period, please consider booking with Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you nothing extra on your vacation. They help you find discount. They do whatever they can for you. They are your own little, they're concierge folks, and they are experts. DreamsUnlimitedTravel.com. You help support the show. We very much appreciate that and appreciate everybody who has ever booked with them. And we appreciate anybody who made it this far into the video too. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you, Deni, for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you everybody out there for watching and listening. We will be back with another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Goodbye, everyone.